Okay, now Tim Storms said, I can produce notes, frequencies is the best term, frequencies that only the elephants can hear. I said, okay, yes. If you hear him talk, he doesn't sound like an octavist. In the most you can say that he is a bass. But I say yes, he has much bigger vocal folds than I have. But he can't sound like me. And he can't reach low notes that I can hit. And I say modal voice. I can hit low notes with vocal fry, but he can go with vocal fry 7 notes, 7 octaves or 8 octaves below mine range. Okay. So, because he has very big, very long, not big, very long vocal folds, he doesn't have the analogy, the proper box inside his throat. If he had a box with the analogy of my vocal folds with my box, then he would sound maybe like a lion. He should have maybe like this, a neck like this, but it's not only how you see externally a note, it's inside how big it is. So he might have bigger vocal folds than me, but maybe his space, his box inside, is smaller than mine. So imagine this, if you have a huge speaker with a small box, then you can't have the subwoofer effect. Here we are talking about the contrabass voice, or the Oktavist, or the Basso Profundo, and why they sound like this, or why some Russian Oktavist has a brutal timbre like mine, or even darker. Okay, why? We are talking about why. Because there must be an analogy of things. So if someone has bigger vocal folds than me, doesn't mean that he is stronger, deeper, or even he might not be an octavist. He might be a tenor. Because the analogy of things are giving you the result, the sound you hear. That is what you must have in your mind when you are talking about these things, when you are reading that stuff. And immediately you say, wow, he must has triple the size of mine. That's why he sounds like this. No, guys. It's the analogy, it's the box inside here. And of course, very, 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 very important, the muscles that surround this box. And we'll talk about this in the other video I told you before. We'll talk about the placement, where the sound is going like this and why it sounds like this. All this stuff, the resonators, the muscle that surrounds your palate. And where you are saying, oh, we are gonna talk about this in another video. But now, the voice doctor said, the space between your epiglottis and your vocal folds is huge. That's why when you are talking, you have this effect, the subwoofer effect. Okay. And they are told me another interesting thing. If the analogy of my vocal folds was not like this, he said your vocal folds are thin. What does mean? Why? You are an octavist and you have thin vocal folds? Why? Because guys, if you see the speaker inside a subwoofer, it has a membrane, a thin membrane that vibrates Of course, it has the analogy I told you before. Okay, the analogy, but the membrane is thin. It vibrates like this, freely, low frequencies. Huh? But it is a subwoofer. It can break a whole house if it wants to. If you turn the amplifier in the max. Then why? Because it is the analogy the vocal folds must have. If my vocal folds with the size they have was thicker, then I couldn't even maybe be heard. If you torture your voice, your vocal folds, your muscles here are becoming much more thicker, and that's why you lose your voice. This is the most important I want you to imagine. Take a chord from a cello, the do, the low do, the low C. If you have this size from this chord, you rip it off and put another chord the same length but 2-3 times thicker, then you will not hear anything. And what does that mean? This is not a cello, or this is not a chord for low C. No, it doesn't have the proper analogy of things, man. If you want this chord, which is the same length from the low C of a cello, to produce any sound, it is 3 times thicker. Then you must take at least 1-2 times longer so it can start to produce any sound. So you might see a tenor have big vocal folds, thin properly, and this must be Dimas Kudai-Bergen. He has a huge range, but he's not a basso. And then you have me. I do not have very long vocal folds. I do not have thick vocal folds. By analogy, listen to me, by analogy, all this we are talking about an analogy. Okay, and I have a huge box in here with the proper muscles surrounding it. And of course the proper strong diaphragm who can send all this stuff up. Okay, so low frequencies, strong resonance. Okay, so thin vocal folds.